So the title of today's talk is Personal Best, and it kind of ties together with what Don Miguel Ruiz was talking about in the Fourth Agreement, which is always do your best. And as we heard in the reading, our best changes from day to day, from moment to moment, and it depends on all sorts of factors. And the idea is, according to Don Miguel, is that we always do our best. And that immediately, for me, brings up the question of who's to say what's best? Whose definition of best is that going to be? And is that judgment? Is our evaluation of whether it was our best or not, is that judgment? Are we laying down some judgment upon ourselves? And I've had an interesting experience over the weekend, and actually the last couple of weeks, that has to do with my nephew and godson, Max Marchiony, who rows crew for his college team. And this weekend, he was in the Intercollegiate Rowing Association Nationals. It's run by U.S. Rowing. And the race that they were in, the qualifying race on Friday morning, there were 4 boats in the race, and they needed to come in first, second, or third in order to make it into the finals. And the final race is this morning at 9:15 or thereabouts. And Max's team came in 1/10 of a second behind the third place boat. And that was the boat from Yale, and they had beaten the Yale team before. So it is really easy to look at that and say, that is not best. That is not the best that we could do. We've done better than that in the past, and it's possible to get really harsh and judgmental on yourself and your teammates and the situation and the world and all the rest of that. And the fact of the matter is, there were other circumstances that were going on, and under those circumstances, a 1/10 of a second, it wasn't like they were slacking. They were rowing really hard, and but for the Yale team pulling it out at the last possible second, they would have gotten into the finals. So, when we're looking at personal best, Max, of course, is the sort of young man who wants to be on the podium taking the gold medal every time, and who could blame him? So he can look at that situation with a lot of frustration and disappointment, and that's okay. And if we remember what Don Miguel Ruiz was talking about, of always do your best, and we think about our personal best, it can mean something different. So there's a saying that Jesus often repeats, and I had him send it to me today so that we can include it now. Good, better, best. Never let it rest until good becomes better and better becomes best. And that's the reminder that what we get to do is just focus on it. Work on whatever it is going to be our best, and let our best happen in the way that it's going to be meaningful for us. So it brings up 2 questions as far as I'm concerned. The first one is, am I satisfied with my performance? Am I satisfied with my performance? When I've done something, and I look at am I satisfied? Is that the best I could do? And then the second question is, was that my best at the time? And that goes both ways. There can be situations where, yeah, I'm satisfied with my performance, and I could have done better. There's something more that I could have added into that. There was something more that I could have brought to myself in that circumstance. So as good as it was, I could have brought my best to it. And if we're not satisfied with the outcome, with the performance that we had, was that the best that I could do at the time? And if that was the best I could do at the time, we can still congratulate ourselves. There's still a good story to be had in there because we're doing the best that we can. And as Don Miguel Ruiz points out to us, if we are consistently doing our best, if we're always doing our best, what's going to happen is we are going to up-level. Our best is going to become better and better and better. And then we get into a cycle of excellence. Sometimes, of course, our best can be woefully inadequate. We want to be doing our best, and it just doesn't work out. And there are a lot of stories about how doing our best is not going to work out. Max has been going to Dartmouth since before the pandemic, so he is actually what they refer to as a super senior. He's in his 5th year, and just because everything got stretched out. And as an athlete, they weren't competing for a year or so there, so he was able to continue his career doing that. And throughout his time at school, Dartmouth has never gotten one of the boats that he races in, a lightweight 8, into the finals. It has never happened. They never got into the nationals. And so the goal was to get into the nationals, to go to the nationals. And this was a last possible chance. Max is graduating from Dartmouth on Friday. So this is his last intercollegiate race opportunity at all. And he and his 7 teammates got into the nationals. Is that the best he could do? Is that better than coming in 4th when you needed to come in 3rd? Is that the disappointment of getting into the petty finals instead of the grand finals and not being able to win the whole thing and stand on the podium? Where does good and better and best come together in there? Remember, his team had never made the nationals, and they set their intention to go ahead and do that. So when we're, each of us, in whatever we're working on in our lives, whether it's in our work, in our relationships, in our hobbies, in our sports, in whatever we're passionate about, are we bringing our best to it? Or are we phoning it in? And I can look at other people and get an idea when they're phoning it in. And sometimes they're working really hard. The people who are not succeeding, who are not clearing the bar, are working a lot harder than somebody who clears the bar really easily. And that's not a judgment, that's a self-assessment. When the question comes along, is that the best that I could do? It's a self-assessment. At the time, that was the best that I was capable of. I did everything that I could. And there are other people who, yeah, I showed up, I ran the race, I won easily. I didn't really have to put my best effort into it, so I just kind of walked through and took home the prize. And that's okay. If you're going for the prize, that's okay. And if you're happy and that's the intention that you set, what I want to do is go and collect up the prize and be done with it, great. But be clear about what it is that you want to be doing. And that if we have that complacency and just kind of let things go along because we know how this works, there's the possibility of getting bored or dissatisfied or disillusioned with the process. It's like, it's easy for me to succeed at this. How many people do you know who have a relatively good job doing something that they're very good at, and they go and they do their job all the time, and they get bored? They get bored because they want there to be something more. Isn't there something else that can happen in my life? Well, of course there's something else that can happen in our lives. And when we go and do the same job, and we bring ourselves to it, and we share ourselves with enthusiasm and invite in that excellence, and we're striving for our personal best on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, or if you're in sales, a quarterly basis, when we're bringing our best to it, the same steps, the same activities feel different. So what's going to make you feel better? What's going to make you feel best? What's going to let you bring yourself to whatever the situation, the circumstance, or the activity is? And then when it comes to best, there's judgment. Now, when I'm looking at somebody else's activities, performance, creativity, or output, I can certainly get into judgment about it. I have found myself on occasion getting into judgment about God, wondering what the heck is going on with the mosquitoes. Why in the world do we need mosquitoes? It's like, I don't understand. They ruined perfectly good outdoor activities for what seems to be no purpose. But that's me having a judgment, and I completely understand. I can imagine it if I want to do the mental exercise from the mosquito's point of view. The mosquitoes thinking, here we are, being mosquitoes, doing the best that we can do, making our little baby mosquitoes and, going out for lunch. And, I really don't like what we have to have for lunch, when it's time to eat. I just don't like it and can have a judgment about that. And they hear from the flies saying, oh, what are you complaining about? Look what we get. And the flies can start talking about how they got it so much worse than the mosquitoes do. And then along come the intestinal parasites, telling the flies to shut up. So the question is not what's good, what's better, what's best, but what is appropriate and what's the best that we can do at a particular time. And there's plenty of room in that for gratitude for the fact that I am in fact not a mosquito. And I celebrate the fact that I'm not a mosquito. This is a cartoon that Joe had sent to me some time ago. This is it's pearls before swine, and this is the pig leaving his friend the mouse, going up to see the wise ass on the hill. And he says, "Oh, great wise ass, I need your help with a problem." "What is it, my son?" says the wise ass. He says, "I try something new and I fail, and I quit. So I try something else new and I fail, and I quit. And I try something else new and fail and fail and fail and fail." And the wise ass on the hill says, "So you try something only once, you naturally fail, and you immediately quit and try something new. Don't you think the problem is rather obvious? Trying is the root of all failure." He tells his friend, then he cried and jumped off the mountain. It is very easy to misinterpret the signs and the feedback that we're getting from the world around us. Yeah, it's possible that trying is the root of all failure, but success is the result of trying. So what we get to do is set the intention for what it is that we want to accomplish, bring our personal best to it, let go of any sense of limitation or lack or negative possibilities, and open up to something fantastic. There is the possibility and the opportunity to do that all the time. We can each do it in whatever we've got going on in our lives. If it's something that's really serious, if we're working in the field of medicine or healthcare or emergency service where we're going to be the difference between life and death, then bringing our best to it is really important. And if it's a hobby where we're getting together with friends and doing something for glee, when we bring our best to it, it changes the circumstance, it changes the situation, it changes us. So we get to bring our best to the circumstance and know that the best is going to change all the time, and know that the circumstances are going to change all the time. So, wrapping up the story about Max. Max is 6'3", and he rows on a lightweight 8 team, which means that nobody on the team can be more than 160 pounds. Now, 6'3" and 160 pounds is not easy, and especially for a Marchiony. Let me tell you, I think the last time that I was 160 pounds might have been before I turned 10, but I'm not sure. Max has not had dessert since January, because that's what he's doing to train for this race so that he could row in a lightweight 8, and that's what he and all of his teammates did to make this happen, to get themselves into the nationals in a lightweight 8 boat, which they did up in at Princeton last weekend. So he's going to go back to school. He's going back up to Hanover, New Hampshire, to Dartmouth this afternoon. He's graduating next Friday. And sometime this week, he is going to go into the bakery there in Hanover, where he has been looking at an amazing apple pie since January. It's the kind of apple pie where they put so many apples inside it looks like a basketball underneath the pie crust. And he's going to go in and he's going to ask for apple pie. And they're going to try and give him a slice of apple pie, and he's going to say, "No, I want the whole pie." And he's going to sit there, and as long as it takes, he's probably going to eat the whole pie and celebrate that. And that's what changes, because he's no longer an intercollegiate rower. He no longer has to weigh in at 160 pounds. There are different possibilities for him, so personal best is suddenly changing. He can do different things now. And so can you. Every moment is an opportunity to reassess, to reevaluate, to look at where we are now, the path that we've been on up until now, and choose. Do I want to stay on this path? Do I want to keep doing this stuff? Am I happy kicking along in the way that I've been doing? Or is there something different? And then we get to choose. And as Don Miguel Ruiz says, always do your best. And your best can get better and better and better. Make something fabulous happen in your life this week. You deserve it. So it is.